If you never quit, you will be a black belt someday. That's all you have to do is keep showing up to classes. It's that easy. Just don't be the person that quits and you will be a black belt someday.
Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about the common things that you're hearing now in jiu-jitsu. So one famous quote is, a black belt is a white belt that never quit, right? But there's more to it than that. And now we also know that there's some schools that if you do a certain amount of hours, you'll get either your stripe or your belt. That doesn't mean that your skill level has gone up. So when you hear somebody, just keep showing up. If you want your black belt, just keep showing up. What does that mean? Keep showing up. Mine's if I show up for the 300 hours and I just sit on a mat and I don't do anything, am I going to get promoted? It makes actually no sense at all. You know, if somebody should not be belt driven or stripe driven, you know, they should be learning the art of jiu-jitsu. That should be your main purpose, not going, oh, I need to get this belt. The belt only covers 2 inches of your ass. You have to do the rest on your own. So it's amazing how jiu-jitsu now is starting to get Americanized, where it's losing its value, not in every school, but you see a lot of people now with their black belts that shouldn't be black belts. You see people that purple belts that shouldn't be purple belts. Why? Because it's like there's this entitlement that I'm going there, I'm spending money, I want to show something in return. Well, the thing that you should be seeing and noticing yourself is your skill level starting to go up, your understanding of jiu-jitsu. The belt should not be somebody's priority. If you really want a belt that badly, go buy it on Amazon for 20 bucks. You'll save yourself tens of thousands of dollars and tons of injuries. You know, so just showing up is not enough. When you go to jiu-jitsu, you should have a mindset. What am I gonna work on today? What are my weaknesses? Are my takedowns good? Are they not good? Is my defense good? Is it not good? You know, am I still having a hard time establishing a pass and getting some control over the person? You know, all these things should be what you're thinking about. Also, so many people are so focused on fancy low percentage moves that as a beginner, you shouldn't be focusing on that. Fancy is not good. If all your moves are dependent on athleticism and being young, your jiu-jitsu is going to start to really wilt as you get older. The focus should be on the basics, because all the moves stem from the basics. If you don't understand the fundamentals, your jiu-jitsu is very limited in so many ways, and your understanding of the art is also. Like a great example, if somebody's mounted on you, right, they're fully mounted, you're not going to go for a collar choke. I saw a purple belt teaching that to a guy who was there for their first time, trying to be helpful, but you could see his knowledge of jiu-jitsu was like next to nothing. You know, he's like, yeah, when a person's mounted, start to go for a choke, keep them busy. If you go for a choke, what's going to happen? The person's going to go for an arm bar. It's completely ridiculous. Same thing with the sweeps. How does a sweep work? This is very important to know. Weight distribution, this is important to know. Knowing the anatomy of the body in such a way where, of course, if you're extending somebody's arm, you're putting them into an arm bar. So what could I do to stop that or defend against it? Oh, the leg going again over my head for the arm bar. You know, people need to start, I'm not even talking about the kids. The kids are a different story. But as an adult, if you're going to learn a martial art, you want to become a martial artist. You want to understand the art itself. Every martial arts system focuses on something completely different. If you take judo and wrestling, right? Their whole thing is the takedown. With wrestling and judo, also the pin is important. With jiu-jitsu, the jiu-jitsu just starts once you hit the ground. This is important. So just showing up is not good. If you're the person that's always getting beat up and not trying, just showing up is not good enough. If you're there just to get a stripe, I mean, you're an adult. We didn't have stripes till probably the early 2000s. Otherwise, you were a white belt, you're a blue belt. Some schools did have stripes, and some of them only gave it as a white belt just to give you some motivation. But we had old school belts without the sleeves on it. The only belt that had a sleeve on it to put stripes was the black belt. So you saw somebody with a shiny new blue belt, and then you saw somebody with a blue belt that looks like it's been through World War II. And it's like, what is going on? How are these two different? Completely, or the same? They're not. They're completely different. The stripes became a motivational factor and a money-making thing to keep people coming, because it's like, oh, here's a stripe, here's some progress. You're progressing closer. You should know whether you are or you aren't, compared to how you're holding up to people at your level, your belt level, underneath, if you're, of course, if you're a blue belt, and above. Also learning your game. Everybody learns different moves all the time in class. Some things are good for tall people, some things are better for short people, some things are better for super flexible people. All these things you should start to look at and understand, where you could start to better your own understanding of jiu-jitsu and your game. Just showing up is not good enough. A lot of people like, oh, of course, a black belt is a white belt that never quits. Yes, of course, because it takes a certain amount of discipline and fortitude to keep pushing through when you're having a shitty day at jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you could be doing really well, and then some days you could just be either exhausted or just off, and people are either dominating you or finishing you. Even some people that haven't in a while. All these things are part of jiu-jitsu. So being tough enough to face those days and to keep moving forward. Also with jiu-jitsu, there's times where you feel like you're not getting better, but then you have to think, if you're there 5 days a week and the other people are there 5 days a week, they're getting better as you are also. So you're not going to dominate them, and then when you get to train with new people that just started, of course you're going to see a difference. When you see yourself going against higher belts and you're not tapping them, but you're lasting longer, this is a good sign also. These are important things to look at. So just showing up is not good. What is a good student? Somebody who shows up on time to class or a little earlier. Now people do warm-ups. Back then they didn't do warm-ups. So maybe you need to warm up a little more because you're a little older. So you have that discipline to get there earlier to do those things. So you show up to class, you do the warm-ups, and then from there, you focus on whatever the teacher is telling you to do. You don't do your own thing, because I watched this on Instagram, or I bought this new DVD, or I'm trying to be like this person who's, a famous grappler. Do what exactly the teacher's telling you. Pay attention. Watch how the teacher's getting the grips and the position, and then there you try to understand it. Some people go into a lot of detail and some people don't, but that doesn't make a difference. You watch and you try to understand it, and you try to copy your teacher 100%. And then also, now when you're the partner, the person who's getting the thing done to you, or actually, if the person's doing the sweep and you're being swept, you get the grips that they showed so the person could practice the move correctly. And then from there you start to learn, oh, this is how they could sweep me from here. So maybe, when I'm training, I don't want to get that grip or avoid this. This is how you start to learn, even when you're the person having the move done to you. So you pay attention to what the teacher does. You learn in class. The whole thing is not sitting there and talking, right? You're drilling, you're practicing. And then after class, some people will write things down. I have a whole book of all the stuff I've learned. I used to always write everything down, and then I'd go through it in my mind. So when I go to class, it wasn't a move that now I don't remember at all. Because jiu-jitsu is like a language. You're learning techniques, and that becomes your vocabulary. And then from there, you start to build sentences and paragraphs, and next thing you know, you have your own story, which is your own style. And this happens through practice, repetition, remembering, putting effort. A lot of people now are spoon-fed with techniques where they're dependent on that person to show them how to get in this, how to get out of that. When you start to understand the fundamentals on a deep level, you start to figure all that stuff out on your own. And this shows now that your level of understanding of the art of jiu-jitsu has grown, where you don't have to be fed everything. This is super important. A lot of people now are overdosing on watching technique. It's like you should focus, especially in the beginning, on a strong fundamentals and foundation of jiu-jitsu. And then from there, as you start to grow with your knowledge, you could watch high-level competitors and figure out and see stuff before it happens, or you could understand how that move worked. Because I know when I started, we didn't have spider guard, we didn't have any of that. I was there as things started to develop. So you watch a high-level competitor, and they get some sweep just because of the person's energy and off-balancing and grips and reactions, and you go, oh wow. And then that's what happened with a lot of competitors too. They go, wow, I just did this sweep. I was never taught it, but it worked because everything was there at that moment. And then you rewind it, you watch it, and next thing you know, you had a new move. And then you practice that, share it, and next thing you know, this is how a lot of the jiu-jitsu techniques have expanded over time. But this takes effort, right? This takes a passion and a love for the art where you're not just showing up to class. You know, some people think about jiu-jitsu 24/7, and this is normal, just how musicians are also, right? A musician can sit there thinking of a rhythm, and then all of a sudden a melody will start to come along. People who love jiu-jitsu is the same way, especially if you love it. You're not just showing up because you want to get better. It doesn't matter about your belt. You know, too many people are focused on stripes and belts. I mean, it makes no sense. So showing up isn't, it's part of it, but it's not the most important thing. It's your effort, your frequency, how disciplined you are, how much you pay attention to your teacher. When you are tired or if you are injured, you show up, either you watch stuff at home, like competitions, or you show up to the school and you sit there and you watch people roll, and you try to see what's working, what's not working. Why did that person get finished? Why did that person get swept? How did they escape from that move? This is the mindset you should have when you're involved with jiu-jitsu. Just showing up is not good enough. If you're just going to jiu-jitsu so eventually you could have a black belt, you missed the point completely. It's not about that. And jiu-jitsu also will help you with everything in life, because jiu-jitsu is true to everything. You know, it's not a mystical martial art where somebody just touches somebody and they fall down. It's like, okay, why does this work? Same thing with grips. You know, when somebody's doing a move, how's their hand position? Where are they gripping? How high or how low are they gripping on the collar or the elbow or the pants? These are things that somebody should be thinking about. And then you experiment with it. You grab in the right place and it works, and try grabbing in the wrong place and see how that person counters and why it doesn't work. All these things are so important when you're training. If you want to get good, you know, you want to represent the art. And by doing that, you don't just show up.